Alright, let's change the mood, shall we? Once upon a time, there was a man named C3 killed Trinity, and he did a YouTube video called Stephen King Previews. And in this Stephen King Previews, he was going to do 3 books. The first book. Hello, horror classics fan. Horror. And today, the first book is The Dark Half. So, you went to the store. You saw this lovely piece of literature right here in front of your face. Like you walked in a store and you're like, oh, excuse me. Would this image enough, the front cover, be enough to catch you guys? Now, it's like a misty kind of thing, and you don't really know what the picture is. It kind of looks like an alien. Or like some kind of, like, I don't know, an ET shark, upside down penis. I don't know what the image is. But if you saw this in a store, Emmett William, if you saw this in a store, would it be able to reach out and grab you? Just like, reach out and grab you. The back of the box. Box? When was this a box? Jacob once said that there was a box in the video. On the back of the book, we have a big close-up of Stephen King's face. So, right off the bat, no, the book does not kind of grab my attention, but if you look at the side of the book, it shows a skull, like a x-ray of a skull. So that could be what the front cover of the book is. Could be. But we just don't know. So if we open this book and take out my little note, we see The Dark Half. When Thad Beaumont wakes to the nightmare of George Stark, hey, he hears birds, thousands of them, all cheeping and twittering. Twittering? They're just on their phones, twittering. At the same time, and with the sound comes a presentiment full of memory and foreboding. The sparrows are flying again. Thad Beaumont is a writer, and for a dozen years he secretly published novels under the name of George Stark, related to Tony Stark, because he was no longer able to write under his own name. He even invented a slightly sinister author biography to satisfy the many fans of Stark's violent bestsellers. But Thad is a healthier and happier man now, the father of infant twins and starting to write as himself again. He no longer needs George Stark, and in fact has a good reason to lay Stark to rest. So, with nationwide publicity, a bit of guilt, and a good deal of relief, the pseudonym is retired. In the small town of Castle Rock, Maine, where Thad and Liz keep a summer home, Sheriff Alan Bangmore ponders the brutal roadside murder of a man named Homer Simpson, Homer Gamache. When Homer's pickup truck is found, the bloody fingerprints of the perpetrator are all over it. They match Thad Beaumont's exactly. Killing machine that destroys everyone on the path that leads to the man who created him. As Stark approaches, and as Thad and Liz contend with the escalating horror and implacable threat of his existence, and Thad reaches deep inside his own mind to mount a defense. Now, with that said, was that enough to really drag you guys into the story? As for me, it most certainly does. These nips were meant for pinching, and that is what they'll do. No, this book really is excellent. If you have not read The Dark Half, read it. It is by far one of my absolute favorite Stephen King books of all time. I don't remember if it made my top 10, but this should be my top 10. Because the writing in it is so poetic and everything is beautiful. Well, let's continue that we don't know what this is about. You read that synopsis and you're like, I just don't know. So you skim through the first page. We got a little prologue. It says, "Cut him," Machine said. "Cut him while I stand here and watch. I want to see the blood flow. Don't make me tell you twice." People's lives, their real lives, as opposed to their simple physical existences, begin at different times. The real life of Thad Beaumont, a young boy who was born and raised in the Ridgeway section of Bergenfield, New Jersey, began in 1960. Two things happened to him that year. The first shaped his life. The second almost ended it. That was the year Thad Beaumont was 11. Now that was the first little paragraph in the book. And the writing is so beautiful in this book. It really is. It's definitely, like, I honest to God want to write a book just like this. Like, if I can get to where I can write such perfectly as this, that would be amazing. But was that enough to really grab you guys' attention? I think it does. Me personally, I think everything about this book does. I would read the final, but it would spoil some things, so I'm just not going to read the end sentences anymore. But I want to know what you guys think. What did you think? Did you think that little bit was enough to really grab your attention and make you want to read that book? Or at least watch the movie. Next, after I put the little note card back in there, next up we have a book that's actually 4 short stories. This book was called 4 Past Midnight. 4 Past Midnight is a collection story of 4 short stories written by this man right here, Mr. Stephen King. If you saw this in a bookstore with its glowing clock, and it's as if the clock was Earth, and it has a rip straight across from here. Doesn't that interest you guys? I personally think that it is such a cool design for a book, honestly. If I saw this in the store, I would honestly pick it up to see what it was about. Now, when we pick up the book, it says here, "Past midnight, something happens to time. That fragile concept we employ to order our senses of reality. It bends, stretches, turns back, or snaps, and sometimes reality snaps with it. And what happens to the wide-eyed observer when the window between reality and unreality shatters?" I like unreality. That is such a cool word. "And the glass begins to fly. These 4 chilling novellas, a feast fit for King fans, old and new, provide some shocking answers. After all, past midnight is Stephen King's favorite time of day." We have One Past Midnight, the Langoliers, the Ding-a-ling-leers. Since these have short stories in them, I'm only going to read the synopsis for this book. So I hope that's okay. One Past Midnight, the Langoliers takes a red-eye flight from L.A. to Boston into a most unfriendly sky. Only 11 passengers survive, but landing in an eerily empty world makes them wish they hadn't. Something's waiting for them. You'll see. 2 past midnight. Secret Window, Secret Garden. My personal favorite story in this entire book. Love that story. Love the movie. Johnny Depp did such an excellent job playing in that movie. If you have not seen, the movie's just called Secret Guard, or Secret Window, I think. Wait. I think it's called Secret Window. If you have not seen the movie, please, for the love of God, see that movie. Secret Window, Secret Garden enters the suddenly strange life of writer Mort Rainey, recently divorced, depressed, and alone on a shore of Tashmore Lake. Alone, that is, until a figure named John Shooter arrives, pointing an accusing finger. 3 past midnight. The librarian police, or the library policeman. Prepare your little tiny buttholes. If you read the story, you'll get that joke. The library policeman is set in Junction City, Iowa, an unlikely place for evil to be hiding, but for small businessman Sam Peebles, who thinks he may be losing Peebles thinks he may be losing his mind. Another enemy is hiding there as well, the truth. If he can find it in time, he might stand a chance. If you have not read that story, it is an okay story. It does have its creepy moments, but really, Stephen King, did you have to really put that in the story? For real? Only people who've read the story will know what I'm saying. And finally, 4 past midnight. The flat surface of a Polaroid photograph becomes, for 15-year-old Kevin Delvane, an invitation to the supernatural. Old Pop Merrill, Castle Rock's sharpest trader, wants to crash the party for profit, but the sun dog, a creature that shouldn't exist at all, is a very dangerous investment. And then it goes on talking about, the more interesting story. If you don't know, the sun dog, in theory, is Cujo. But yeah, was those short tidbits out of the entire story enough to really get those nips a perkin? Because I think it really is. And has anyone commented? Just Levi. You can go outside right now on your nipples. Can freeze off. How can I walk outside with my nipples? Levi. El Manuel. Consider my nips perked. This book actually was really interesting. I really enjoyed the stories in this book. I was thinking of a different book when I first said that this one is kind of dull, but this one's actually good. Read this one if you haven't, especially the library police, so that way you know my little tiny butt joke. And finally, in this world, we all have desires, some sexual, some for peanut butter, but for all of us, we all have those. Needful Things. The next book is Needful Things. Are you excited about the new Insidious movie? Hell to the yeah, I'm excited. Insidious is such a great movie series. And this one, I thought it would be Insidious Chapter 4, but it's just called The Last Key. So I wonder where this takes place in our fractured timeline of those movies. But our next story is Needful Things. Out of all 3 books, the best front cover to a book thus far. If you see this in a store, you're walking in a bookstore and this is just displayed, immediately it's going to catch my attention. The Last Castle Rock Story, Needful Things. And it has a shop, says open, this illuminating shadow. Can't tell if it's a man or if it's a little boy. It could be Stephen King's It. Why is his hand curled like this? I'll never know. But it has a creepy ass doll in the cover, a little baseball card, hint hint, and then just a shining fiery glow from the pits of hell. So yeah, this, and on the back it's like other buildings with tiny fires in them. So that's, whoever designed this book did one heck of a good job. I forgot to put the little note card back in the 4 past midnight. Boop. Alright. Now let's get on to... So you open the book and you're like, right off the bat, I'm giving credit to the art. So I'm going to open it up, and right here it says, with a demonic blend of malice and affection, Stephen King says goodbye to the town he put on the map, Castle Rock, Maine, where Polly Chalmers runs You Sue, and Sheriff Alan Pangborn. Wait a minute. Did y'all catch that too? Oh yeah, that's right. Dark Half is a Castle Rock story. In the small town of Castle Rock, Maine, where Thad and Liz keep a summer home, Sheriff Alan Pangborn. I knew Mr. Bangmore was in more stories than one. So that's kind of cool that he's bringing the same characters into play. Sheriff Alan Bangmore, is in charge of keeping the peace. It's a small town, and Stephen King fans might think they know its secrets pretty well. They've been here before. Leland Gaunt is a stranger, and he calls his shop Needful Things. 11-year-old Brian Rusk is his first customer, and Brian finds just what he wants most in the world, a 56 Sandy Koufax baseball card. By the end of the week, Mr. Gaunt's business is fairly blooming, and why not? At Needful Things, there's something for everyone. Now, I could read more. But with that little bit, was that enough to really grab you by the conies and say, man, I want to read some more of this? In a way, I kind of think it does, because Leland Gaunt is such a cool name for a character. I personally think that is. And he has a shop called Needful Things. So, in mind, if you think, okay, scary story, a little shop called Needful Things, immediately that's going to drag you in. At least I think so. But if that wasn't enough to tickle your fancy, tickle your pickle, if I may, we're going to continue on to... I like how this page just says you've been here before. Sorry you can't grab my balls. Sure you have. Sure I can. Sure, I never forget a face. Come on over here. Let me shake your hand. Tell you something. I recognize you, by the way. Is this the beginning? Yes, it is. Come on over here. Let me shake your hand. Tell you something. I recognize you by the way you walk, even before I saw your face. Good. You couldn't have picked a better day to come back to Castle Rock. Yeah, this is just a little introduction. Where's the damn... There it is, part 1. I like Stephen King's little introductions. It just shows how much he loves, talking about his stories. Chapter 1. In a small town, the opening of a new store is big news. It wasn't as big a deal to Brian Rusk as it was to some. His mother, for instance. He had heard her discussing it. He wasn't supposed to call it gossiping, she had told him, because gossiping was a dirty habit and she didn't do it. At some length on the telephone with her best friend, Myra Evans. Over the last month or so, the first workmen had arrived at the old building which had last housed Western Maine Realty and Insurance right around the time school let in again. And they had been busily at work ever since. Not that anyone had much idea what they were up to in there. Their first act had been to put in a large display window, and their second had to be to soap it opaque. 2 weeks ago, a sign appeared in the doorway, hung on a string over plastic see-through suction cup. Opening soon. The sign read, Needful Things, a new kind of store. You won't believe your eyes. Now, with that said, was that enough to really come at you very close and grab you by the balls? It was a little slow, I will admit. For me, it was a little slow. There wasn't really that much of a instant grab in there. I think the best part is where what the sign had said, because that was kind of interesting. What was your favorite movie that came out in 2017? Personally, Stephen King's It is my absolute favorite of the horror movies that came out. My favorite movie that came out this year is definitely Star Wars The Last Jedi. But for horror, it was the remake of Stephen King's It. Personally, I just absolutely love that movie. But every movie that I've seen so far was excellent. I still haven't watched Get Out yet, so I need to watch that. But I want to watch The Snowman as well, because I think that one would be really good. And but yeah, what about you? If you're still watching, what was your favorite 2017 movie? Or anybody that's watching, anybody can answer. What was your favorite 2017 movie? I think El Manuel said something. Star Wars, not me. You're not my favorite movie, no. But, which one of these books grabbed your attention? Was it The Dark Half? Was it 4 Past Midnight? It's actually 3 past evening. Or was it Needful Things? Happy New Year to you, Alpha Kitty. You literally missed almost the whole episode, but that's okay. Speaking of New Year, guys, since I haven't really talked too much, what are y'all's New Year's resolutions? What's your typical New Year, New Me kind of stuff? For me personally, I would try to do better with my videos. I want to do more horror, watch more horror movies, and play more video games and stuff. But honestly, for me personally, I want to try and save some more money than what I did this previous year. So, what about you guys? What we got? Probably It or Split. Split was a very good movie. Yeah, I believe it came out in 2017. It was either early 17 or maybe late 16. I'm pretty sure it was 2017. But it was a great movie. I will agree with that. The one book that grabbed me was that book in the corner of your room. Oh, this one? Oh, very funny. Mm-hmm. Very, very funny indeed, Glenn. But, yeah. For me personally, out of the three, I would probably say the one that grabbed my attention the most would probably have to go to The Dark Half. Simply because it was very poetically written, and I just love poetically written stuff. Stuff that begins immediately pulling you in. Needful Things is a great book. The movie was okay, but loved it. Yeah, I will agree. The movie was kind of slow. They're trying to cram so much info into the movie that they miss a couple of things, which they do with every movie typically. But this book is one of Stephen King's best written stories ever. Alright, I'm going to close the show, or close this video off, by saying the next video I make is going to be yet another Stephen King parody review. The first one I did was Cujo. I hope you guys liked my video of Cujo. I hope you guys found it pretty funny and amusing. So please, comment below when this video is done, and you can comment in the comment section. Please tell me what book you want me to do a parody review of next for Stephen King, except for Cujo. Thank you guys for watching. I am Z3KO Trinity, and I guess,